This is the Air Force's worst nightmare. And no, it's not running out of available rooms at the Hilton while on deployment. Instead, it is the Arctic weather in one of the Air Force's most remote bases. While many Americans might live in cold environments, they have not experienced a true cold like how it gets up at Eielson Air Force Base. Located about 26 miles southeast of Fairbanks, Alaska, Eielson is the closest permanent U.S. military base to the Arctic Circle. Because of this, the base experiences some very extreme conditions. For example, from October through April, the average temperature is at or below freezing. During this time, the base receives an average of 78 inches of snow each year. Comparing that to the height of the F-35, which is the most common fighter aircraft there, this would mean that, left as it is, fighter pilots could simply walk on the snow and step into the cockpit. Definitely not ideal flying conditions. But while the airmen of the 354th Air Wing would certainly never let the snow get that high, the fact that snow and ice constantly cover both the aircraft and the flight line is a huge safety hazard. This is because of how aerodynamics work. When any fixed-wing aircraft takes flight, lift is generated by airflow over the wings. As the horizontal forces hit the wing forces the air to go vertically and then back down. This vertical flow of air creates the lift that brings planes up. Ice and snow affect this process by changing the aerodynamics of the plane. By having huge amounts of snow or ice on wing surfaces, this could cause the aircraft to not perform as designed and literally drop out of the sky. And if you think this is just being overly cautious, American military aviation has been constantly plagued by this for generations. For example, during World War II, the U.S. Army Air Corps lost an entire squadron of B-17 bombers and P-38 fighter escorts in Greenland due to ice and snow conditions. Even as recently as 1991, ice accumulation on a B-52 bomber in North Dakota caused it to crash during takeoff. Because of incidents like these, the U.S. Air Force takes clearing ice and snow from its aircraft and runways very seriously. However, this is much easier said than done. It is not uncommon for Eielson to get buried under a blanket of snow overnight. Because of this, during the winter, de-icing and snow clearing operations are underway literally 24 hours a day to ensure the base gets ahead of snowfall accumulation when it is still manageable. While one might picture lines of airmen furiously sweeping the runways with brooms and shovels to clear the base, the reality is not like this. Due to the harsh weather conditions, sending airmen out willy-nilly to clear runways is foolhardy and a waste of time. Instead, the airmen at the base have a wide range of amazing equipment that is more than enough to make the base safe for flight operations. The Oshkosh H-Series blowers are one of the best tools the base personnel use to clear the runways. And these are not the type of snowblower you might get at Harbor Freight. Oh no, these are the biggest, baddest snowblowers probably ever created. These massive snowblowers, which are around 30 feet long and over 10 feet tall, weigh in at around 30 tons of pure snow-pushing power. With its hydraulically driven ribbon auger in the front of the vehicle, the H-Series blower can move an impressive 5,000 tons of snow per hour and clear up to 200 feet of runway. A 6-cylinder Cummins diesel engine powers this beast. Though it produces just 350 horsepower, this engine has an incredibly high torque of around 1,350 foot-pounds. This gives the H-Series blower the juice it needs to power through even the toughest snowbanks and keep the runway safe. Of course, clearing the runway is just half the battle. Ensuring that aircraft are free of ice and snow is the other major task airmen at Eielson have to contend with. For this part, the base has several different de-icers they call upon, including one of the largest in the world, the Global Extended Reach G2875 de-icer. The G2875 is a two-part system that looks like a bucket truck one might see repairing power lines. At 12 feet high and 40 feet long, the vehicle chassis seems rather large for a simple truck and bucket system. That is because the boom that folds out of the vehicle can go an astonishing 43 feet in the air, more than enough to de-ice the tallest parts of even the biggest aircraft at the base. like the KC-135 or the C-130. Once in the air, the operator can spin 180 degrees to reach all the nooks and crannies they need. But of course, the magic is in the nozzle that looks like a military-grade super soaker. Inside the vehicle are several storage tanks that hold up to 2,800 gallons of fluid. These fluids are most commonly glycols or different alcohols, with a flow rate of 60 gallons per minute at 150 psi. The G-2875 is full-on blasting these aircraft with high-pressure chemicals. But why? One of the main benefits of using something like glycol, which is kind of like antifreeze, is that this chemical will lower the freezing point of water. Depending on the ratio of water to glycol, this mixture can reduce the freezing point of water down to about 55 degrees below zero, with even the coldest average temperatures at the base reaching 13 below zero. This ensures there is zero chance of ice forming on the aircraft. And if you think this job is easy, like hosing down your car, you would be surely mistaken. Because of the thick snow, constant fogging windows, and close proximity to multi-million-dollar aircraft, becoming a boom operator on the flight line takes months of specialized training and instruction. In fact, this job is so crucial that base personnel even designed their own virtual reality training program to get new airmen accustomed to the deicers, as well as keeping skills sharp during the summer for the winter ahead. However, despite these great pieces of technology, sometimes the weather devises ways to defeat all previous techniques the base has encountered. For example, during one particularly bad snowstorm, the base was covered in a literal 2-inch thick sheet of ice. Base commanders initially thought that the process to clean up the base would take about 2 weeks. That was until an enterprising airman came up with a solution. After removing the auger from one of the H-series blowers, the airman designed and crafted an innovative front attachment. This front attachment allowed the blower to push under the ice, making it like a giant ice scraper. Because of this invention, the personnel there were able to clear up the historically thick ice sheet in just 2 days, instead of the original estimate of 2 weeks. But it's not just the personnel on the flight line with the fancy equipment who help make this base run. It is also the maintenance personnel in the repair shops who are the unsung heroes of the operation. Due to the harsh operating environments, along with constant exposure to salt and toxic chemicals, the blowers, deicers, and other equipment have to be frequently serviced. Combine this with the extreme pressure the cold puts on the system, and one can see that maintaining this limited number of equipment year-round is no easy task. But once the snow and ice have been cleared and the runway looks ready, personnel still have one more step to take before pilots can hit the throttle and tumble down the runway. Even once seemingly cleared of snow and ice, runways at Eielson can still be dangerous to fly on, despite looking fine. How the Air Force determines this is through a skidometer. And before you ask, yes, it's the actual name for it. What a skidometer does is measure the friction of the runway. It accomplishes this through a test wheel that is towed behind a truck. As the truck moves forward, the test wheel spins about 10 to 15% slower than the truck's tires. As the wheel makes contact with the ground, the test wheel measures the load. This matters because the test wheel mimics a wheel of an aircraft as it comes in for a landing. If the runway is too slick, incoming planes can lose control and crash. By continually monitoring the runway friction, base commanders can better allocate resources and see what parts still need work to preserve resources. But what happens when snow and ice continue to fall, and no matter how hard they work, they cannot get ahead of the problem? Thankfully, the Air Force has an answer to that problem too. When Arctic conditions become so bad that traditional aircraft cannot take off or land, the Air Force helped develop a plane that could continue operations no matter what. Based on the iconic C-130 cargo airplane, the Navy and Air Force worked together to create an aircraft that could deliver supplies to people no matter how heavy the snow or how thick the ice was. From the outside, the LC-130 looks like a normal cargo plane. However, looking at the landing gears, you'll see something extra on top of them. Though folded up like a box at first, when pilots deploy them, these mysterious additions are actually giant skis that go underneath each landing gear. In addition to these, the aircraft also comes standard with another ski underneath the nose of the aircraft. The purpose of these skis is to evenly distribute the weight of the aircraft over a larger surface. Basic physics tells us that this will prevent the aircraft from slipping and sliding as much during takeoffs and landings, and from punching through softer snow. But despite these features, it may not be enough during missions when the plane is really laden down with gear or equipment. But don't worry, the Air Force thought of a solution for that too. Located near the rear of the airplane are two sets of 4 cylindrical devices on each side of the fuselage. While inconspicuous, these are vital to ensuring flight safety in the most extreme winter conditions and are a feature that makes this aircraft one of the most unique in the world. Called Jet-Assisted Takeoff, or JATO rockets. These are literal one-use rocket engines that provide up to 1,000 extra foot-pounds of force each for 12 seconds during those hairy takeoffs. While not in use every time, JATO rockets can mean the difference between a successful mission or making the front page of the Air Force Times for another aviation mishap. Although the 10 LC-30 aircraft are based in northern New York State, should the personnel at Eielson Air Force Base ever get snowed in, the Air Force has a way to resupply or evacuate them no matter how bad the weather. Bye for now.